E. Pluribus. Unum. Story by Magic Art. Edited and polished with assistance from Grok, XAI. The fog rolled in thick off the harbor that night in Baltimore, swallowing streetlights and turning the city into a gray smear. Sirens moaned low, the curfew alert no one bothered to hear anymore. Midnight to 3 a.m., streets closed, insurrection act in full force. 6 months earlier, President Trump had stood at the podium and promised to wipe homelessness from America's streets in half a year. A pluribus unum, he'd said, smirking like he'd already won. The media laughed. Democrats waved the 25th Amendment. Republicans looked away. Then the encampments started disappearing. Under the Jones Falls Viaduct, tents and cardboard shelters stood one night. Dawn came. The concrete was bare. No trash, no sleeping bags, no people. Skid rows emptied in every city. Doorways stood empty. Underpasses went silent. No arrests, no bodies, just clean pavement. National Guard Humvees lined the main roads, soldiers with flashlights herding stragglers indoors. But in the dead zones, places polite society never looked, surveillance cameras had gone dark weeks earlier, disabled by executive order for operational security. That was where the work happened. The crunching, slurping, dragging sound started low, a wet hum rising through the ground. Old Ray, sleeping rough since the 90s, woke to it. He sat up in his cardboard lean-to, peering into the fog. Large gray shapes spiraled forward from the shadows beneath the bridge. Thick appendages jutted from their sides, paddling against the pavement in slow, deliberate strokes. Each push and drag propelling the bulk forward while steering its spiral path. Trails of iridescent slime steamed faintly on the cold concrete. Ray tried to crawl. The nearest one reached him and rolled over the shelter in one continuous motion. His outline pressed briefly against the translucent surface, arms outstretched, then vanished. No sound. The thing continued, trailing fresh slime. The forms moved methodically through the encampment, appendages scraping and steering, blocking paths, spiraling wider, funneling the sleepers into tighter groups. One by one, the shelters disappeared beneath them. Bodies folded into the gray mass, shapes ballooning and emulsifying, rising briefly, then shrinking, flattening, gone. The slime trails spread. Then the second type arrived. Low, chunky, bulbous humanoids, a dark, dirty black-gray, pressed their grotesque bellies to the ground. They scuttled forward in quick bursts, limbs splaying wide. They raced over the slime trails, scraping pavement, absorbing every drop. Their surfaces bulged with absorbed body parts of humans and small animals. They even ingested scraps of trash and garbage as they cleaned, leaving the concrete spotless. The pattern repeated nationwide. The homeless were the primary targets, encampments cleared first, methodically. But the curfew made no exceptions. In Central Park, an elderly couple defied it for their anniversary, spreading a blanket near Bethesda Terrace. The vibration found them. The rolling forms spiraled in, appendages paddling the paths. They vanished mid-toast. In Brooklyn, a woman in labor and her husband hurried toward the hospital. The forms blocked the street. They disappeared at the corner. A veteran under a Chicago bridge, a night shift worker walking home in Los Angeles. Ordinary citizens caught after midnight, swept up in the same operation. By morning, the streets gleamed. No tents, no traces. The reaction came fast and furious. Democrats called it genocide, demanded immediate invocation of the 25th Amendment. Republicans who had wavered now joined the calls for removal. Cable news looped the same questions. How is this possible? Where did they go? Opponents who once mocked the promise as fantasy now spoke in hushed tones of mass disappearance, authoritarian horror, secret prisons. Conspiracy theories multiplied, yet the streets remained empty of the homeless. The statistics were undeniable. The impossible had been delivered. In the Oval Office, Trump sat behind the resolute desk, scrolling headlines on his phone. He chuckled once, low and satisfied, then tapped out a post. E pluribus unum, working perfectly, streets clean, homeless gone, promise made, promise kept, hashtag MAGA. He hit send, no hesitation, no second thoughts. The critics were wrong. The job was done. 6 months earlier. In the Situation Room, the lights were dim and the air was stale. The CIA briefer stood at the far end of the table, hands clasped behind his back. He spoke plainly. "Mr. President, the DARPA program is operational. The subsumers are ready for deployment. They absorb targets on contact, leave no physical remains, no bodies, no evidence. We've run full-scale tests. They'll clear the streets in weeks, not months." Trump sat forward, elbows on the table. "And it's foolproof. No leaks, no mess." The briefer nodded once. "Yes, sir, but it's permanent. Once released, they operate until the designated zones are empty." Silence settled. Trump stared at the map on the wall for a long moment, then looked back at the man. "Get it done," he said. "I made a promise. I keep promises."